The rain fell endlessly that night, washing the city in a cold silence. Neon lights flickered across puddles, and the faint echo of music drifted from distant alleys. He stood under a broken street lamp, head down, his trembling hands clutching a cigarette that had burned out long ago. The smoke had stopped rising, but his guilt never did. His name was Zaid, a man whose soul felt heavier than the world itself. He stared at his reflection in the puddle, eyes red, face worn, a heart long forgotten. The sound of thunder rolled above him, and for a brief moment he whispered under his breath, "There's no way back for me." His voice cracked. "Not after what I've done." Every sin he committed played in his mind like a haunting film. The lies, the nights of drunken laughter, the broken hearts, the prayers he mocked, the Quran he once threw aside. Once he was full of pride, confident, loud, untouchable. But now silence had become his punishment. He stumbled back to his small apartment, the kind of place where even the walls seemed tired. Empty bottles lined the floor, music posters clung half-ripped to the walls, and dust covered everything. He collapsed onto the couch, covering his face with both hands, the guilt pressed on his chest like a mountain. He turned on the TV to drown the noise in his head, but the channel flickered to a scholar's soft voice, reciting from the Quran. "Say, O my servants who have transgressed against themselves, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins." Surah Az-Zumar, 39-53. Zaid froze. His heart skipped. The remote slipped from his hand and hit the floor with a hollow thud. He stared blankly at the screen. Those words, "Do not despair of the mercy of Allah," echoed like thunder inside him. He turned off the TV and sat in the dark. "That's not for me," he whispered. "Allah wouldn't forgive someone like me, not after all this." The next morning, sunlight spilled through the dirty blinds. Zaid dragged himself out of bed, his head aching, his soul empty. He walked aimlessly through the streets, watching people smile, pray, live. It all looked like another world, a world that didn't belong to him anymore. At a small cafe, he overheard two old men talking. "Brother, no matter how dark your past is, Allah can still bring you back. But what if someone's gone too far?" "No one goes too far for Allah's mercy." The words pierced him. He looked away quickly, pretending not to hear, but his heart wouldn't stop beating fast. That night, as he lay in bed, tears began to roll down his face, tears he hadn't shed in years. "Ya Allah," he whispered shakily, "if you're really listening, I don't know how to come back. I don't even know how to start." For the first time in a long time, silence didn't feel empty. It felt like something was listening. That night, sleep didn't come easily. Every time Zaid closed his eyes, he saw flashes of his past, faces of people he hurt, moments he could never erase. He saw himself laughing in sin, standing in places where the name of Allah was mocked. His own laughter haunted him now, echoing like a curse in his head. He turned on his side, pressing his palms to his ears, whispering, "Stop. Please stop." But the voices wouldn't stop. They never did. At 3 a.m., he finally got up and went out. The streets were quiet, the world asleep. The only sound was the wind moving through the trees and the hum of distant traffic. He walked aimlessly, his mind heavy with regret. Then he passed by a small masjid, its lights faint, but its doors open. For a long time he stood outside, frozen. Something inside him told him to enter, but another voice whispered, "You don't belong there." He looked at the masjid's entrance again, feeling unworthy even to step on its floor. "If I go in there," he murmured to himself, "the angels will probably push me out." He turned to leave, but then an old man stepped out. He had a white beard, kind eyes, and a soft smile. "Assalamu alaikum, son," he said gently. Zaid froze. It had been years since anyone greeted him like that. He hesitated, then mumbled, "Wa alaikum salam." The old man looked at him kindly. "It's late. You're not out here alone for nothing. Come inside. Sit down." "It's Allah's house? No one is ever unwelcome?" Zaid lowered his gaze, ashamed. "I'm not pure enough," he whispered. The old man smiled again. "Neither am I, my son. None of us are. But we come here to try." Something in those words broke him. Without another word, he followed the old man inside. The scent of clean carpet and faint traces of oud filled the air. The masjid was small, empty except for one glowing light above the mihrab. Zayd sat quietly, his head bowed. For the first time in years, his heart felt calm, but also scared. The old man sat beside him. "You know," he began softly, "Allah never gets tired of forgiving. It's we who get tired of asking." Zayd felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to speak, to confess everything, but the words wouldn't come. All that came out was a whisper. "I've done things that would make you hate me." The old man chuckled gently. "I've done things too, son. We all have. But Allah's mercy is greater than our shame." Zayd looked up at the ceiling. His lips trembled. "Do you really think Allah could forgive someone like me?" The old man's eyes softened. "My boy, Allah forgave a man who killed 99 people. He forgave those who spent a lifetime in sin, but turned to him once with a sincere heart. Tell me, do you think your sins are heavier than his mercy?" Those words hit Zayd like lightning. His breath grew heavy. For the first time, he felt something inside him, not pain, not guilt, but hope. A small, fragile spark of hope. He felt tears burning in his eyes, and he didn't stop them. He cried silently, hands covering his face, whispering, "Ya Allah, I don't deserve it, but please, give me one more chance." The old man smiled. That's all he's been waiting for. The adhan for Fajr began to echo softly across the city. Zayd had never heard it this way before. Every word felt like a call meant just for him. The sound of Hayya ala Salah seemed to pierce straight through his soul. He stood behind the imam that morning, awkward, unsure, trembling, but when he bowed his head in sujud, something broke inside him completely. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like he was performing a ritual. He felt like he was returning home. Tears soaked the prayer mat. "Ya Allah," he whispered between sobs, "I've been lost for so long. I mocked your signs, ignored your words, turned away from your mercy. But I can't carry this anymore. Please forgive me. Please take me back." And in that moment, a quiet peace entered his heart. Not a loud miracle, not a voice from the heavens, but a stillness, the kind only Allah can give. It was as if his soul, long wandering, had finally found its way back. When the prayer ended, Zayd didn't rush to leave. He sat there, watching the morning light seep through the mosque windows. The old man placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "You see, son, when Allah brings someone back, he never leaves them empty." "This is your new beginning." Zayd nodded slowly, tears still in his eyes. For the first time in years, he smiled. Days passed, and something inside Zayd began to change. The city still roared outside, but he no longer felt part of its noise. He would wake up early, make wudu carefully, and walk to the masjid. Every step felt like redemption, every prayer like a bandage over an old wound. But still, the shadows of his past followed him. One evening, while leaving the masjid after Isha, he heard laughter echoing from a nearby alley, familiar laughter. He froze. It was his old friends, the ones he used to drink and sin with. "Zayd, where have you been, man?" One of them shouted, walking toward him with a grin. "We thought you disappeared or died." Zayd smiled weakly. "I just needed some time." "Come on, bro," another said, slapping his back. "We're heading to the club." Just like old times. One night won't kill you. The temptation hit him like a storm. For a moment, his heart wavered. He looked at their faces, carefree, loud, laughing, and he remembered that life. It wasn't happiness, but it was familiar. And sometimes the familiar feels safer than the unknown. But then, as the neon lights flickered over his face, he remembered the peace he felt in sujud, the warmth in his heart after Fajr. His throat tightened. "No," he said quietly. "Not anymore," his friend frowned. "Oh, come on, man. Don't tell me you've gone all religious now?" Zayd's voice was soft but steady. "No, I've just realized who I was, and I don't want to be that person again." They laughed, cruelly, mockingly. "You, Mr. Saint now? Bro, you think Allah cares about guys like us?" Zayd looked at them, and for the first time, he didn't feel anger, only sadness. That's what I used to think too, he said. Until I found out I was wrong, he turned and walked away. Their laughter echoed behind him, fading into the distance. His heart hurt, but he also felt something new strength. The strength to say no. That night, he returned to his apartment and stood by the window. The city lights shimmered, and he whispered, Ya Allah. It's hard. I feel weak sometimes. But I know you're with me. Don't let me fall again. His phone buzzed. It was a message from one of his old friends. You'll be back. You can't stay away forever. Zaid stared at the screen, then turned it off. Not this time, he whispered. Not again. Days turned into weeks. He found peace in small things. The sound of Quran in the morning, helping clean the masjid, listening to the imam's stories after prayer. People began to notice his calmness, his humility. One day, a young man approached him and said, Brother, I've seen you here often. You seem peaceful. How did you find it? Zaid smiled softly. By losing everything first. The young man looked at him curiously. You mean? I was far, Zaid said quietly. Farther than you can imagine. But Allah doesn't leave anyone who truly wants to come back. That night, Zaid opened the Quran again, for the first time in years. His fingers trembled as he read the verses. And whoever repents and does righteousness indeed turns to Allah with accepted repentance. Surah Al-Furqan, 25-71. Tears filled his eyes. Ya Allah, he whispered. I wasted so many years. So many chances, but you still let me stand here today. How merciful you are. He began to write in a small notebook, notes of gratitude, verses that touched him, reflections of his heart. Over time, that notebook became his closest friend. When loneliness came, he would open it and remind himself of how far he'd come. But life, as always, wasn't done testing him. One afternoon, he received a letter from a woman, someone from his past. It was Layla, the one he had hurt the most, the one he had abandoned when she needed him. The letter was short. I heard you've changed. I'm glad. I'm trying to forgive you, but I can't forget. Pray for me. Zaid held the letter tightly, his eyes welling with tears. Ya Allah, I destroyed so many hearts. How do I make things right? That night, he stood in prayer longer than ever before. He raised his hands and said, Oh Allah, I can't undo my past, but please let my future be a means of healing for me and for those I've hurt. Use me for good. Let me bring others closer to you the way you brought me back. His tears fell endlessly that night. The wind outside whispered softly through the open window, as if the world itself was listening. The next morning, Zaid walked back to the masjid, not as the broken man he once was, but as a servant trying to rebuild his soul. The imam greeted him warmly. You look peaceful today. Zaid smiled. I am. For the first time, I'm not running from Allah. I'm running toward him. And deep inside, he knew that was the difference that changed everything.